Dad, I don't have a father. That's what my daughter said when I knocked on the door of the house I bought her, the house I paid $3.2 million for, the house where she was supposed to be living her dream life. Instead, I found her scrubbing floors like a servant, wearing a torn apron and staring at me like I was a complete stranger. When someone steals your car, you call the police. When someone steals your money, you call your lawyer. But what do you call it when someone steals your daughter's mind and convinces her you never existed? This story will show you how a predator can turn a brilliant woman into a prisoner in her own home. If you think you know what manipulation looks like, you're about to learn how deep the rabbit hole really goes. And if you have daughters, sisters, or anyone you love, you need to hear what happened next. I'm Dr. Robert Carter. 3 days ago I flew home from London to surprise my 26-year-old daughter Emily. We'd been talking regularly for 2 years, or so I thought. She had a master's degree in psychology, a job helping trauma survivors, and a beautiful house in Palo Alto that I'd bought as her graduation gift. But when I rang the doorbell at 1247 Maple Street, the woman who answered wasn't my daughter anymore. "Can I help you?" she asked politely like I was delivering a package. "Emily, it's me. It's Dad." She tilted her head, confused. "Dad, I don't have a father. You must have the wrong house." Before I could respond, a man appeared behind her. "Is there a problem here?" "This man says he's my father," Emily told him. The man looked at me with pity. Emily's father abandoned her years ago. She's been very clear about not wanting contact with family. I watched my brilliant, independent daughter nod in agreement. That's when I realized this wasn't a family misunderstanding. This was something much worse. Let me back up and explain how we got here. Because what happened next will only make sense if you understand what I thought I knew about my daughter's life. Emily had always been independent. After her mother died when she was 16, we'd grown closer than most fathers and daughters. She'd finished college early, earned her master's in psychology by 24. Brilliant kid, the kind of person who could see through manipulation from a mile away, or so I thought. 2 years ago when I decided to take the position in London, Emily was thriving. She just started working at a therapy clinic in San Francisco helping trauma survivors rebuild their lives. The irony of that would hit me later. "Dad, I want to stay in California," she told me during one of our last dinners together. "This is where I belong. This work matters to me." I respected her decision. More than that, I wanted to support it. So I made the biggest financial commitment of my life. On June 15, 2022, I transferred $3,200,000 from my Wells Fargo account to purchase 1247 Maple Street. The paperwork was clean, the location perfect, close to her work, safe neighborhood, the kind of place where she could build a real life. I also established the Carter Family Trust with $2.1 million, naming Emily as the primary beneficiary. Wells Fargo managed it, ensuring she'd have security no matter what happened to me. The trust was ironclad, designed to protect her from anyone who might try to take advantage. "Dad, this is too much," she'd protested when I handed her the deed. "It's not too much. It's exactly enough. You deserve a foundation to build from." She'd cried happy tears. We'd hugged in the driveway of her new home and I'd felt like I'd finally done something right as a single father. For the first year everything seemed perfect. Our video calls were regular, full of stories about her work, her new life. She was dating someone casually, nothing serious. She seemed happy. Then Ryan entered the picture. The change was gradual. Emily started mentioning him more frequently. How thoughtful he was, how he was helping her get organized, how he understood her in ways other people didn't. Classic early-stage manipulation tactics, though I didn't recognize them at the time. "He's a lawyer," she told me during a call last fall. "Real estate law. He's been helping me understand all the paperwork you set up." That should have been my first red flag. Emily didn't need help understanding paperwork. She'd always been sharp with details, meticulous about documentation. But I was busy with cardiac cases, pulling long hours, and I trusted my daughter's judgment. The calls became less frequent after Christmas. When we did talk, Ryan was often in the background. Sometimes I'd hear his voice, always polite, always helpful, always somehow managing the conversation. "Emily seems tired," I mentioned to my colleague Dr. Mark Reynolds during a break between surgeries. "Kids get busy," he'd said. "She's probably just building her adult life." But something felt wrong. The medical training that taught me to notice subtle changes in heart rhythm was picking up irregularities in my daughter's voice. She spoke more quietly now. She asked fewer questions. She seemed smaller. Last month I decided to surprise her. I'd been planning to visit for her birthday anyway, but I wanted it to be spontaneous. I wanted to see her natural environment, meet this Ryan person, and reassure myself that everything was fine. I should have called first. The flight confirmation showed my arrival time clearly. Tuesday, 2:15 p.m. San Francisco International. I'd deliberately chosen a time when Emily would likely be home from work. I wanted to see her face light up with surprise. Instead, I saw a stranger wearing my daughter's face calling me, "Sir," and asking if I needed directions somewhere, standing on that porch with Ryan. I felt the same sensation I got when a patient went into cardiac arrest during surgery. Time slowing down, adrenaline sharpening every detail, the understanding that someone's life hung in the balance. "There's been a misunderstanding," Ryan continued, his voice reasonable and calm. "Emily has had some difficulties with family relationships. She's been very clear about not wanting contact." "Difficulties? What difficulties?" "We talked 3 weeks ago." Ryan's smile never wavered. "Sometimes people say things to avoid confrontation. Emily's been working very hard on establishing healthy boundaries. I've been supporting her through that process." The word boundaries, coming from this man, felt like a scalpel being twisted. Emily and I had never needed boundaries. We'd built our relationship on trust, respect, and open communication. "I'd like to speak with Emily directly." "That's not going to happen. She's asked me to handle these kinds of situations." These kinds of situations. As if concerned fathers showing up to check on their daughters was a recurring problem that needed management. I looked past him toward the house. My house, the one I'd bought for my daughter's freedom and security. Through the window I could see movement in the kitchen. Emily cleaning something with mechanical precision. "This is her house," I said. "I bought it for her." Ryan's expression shifted slightly, like a poker player who'd just been dealt an unexpected card. "Emily said I don't know who you are." "Actually," Ryan said, reaching into his jacket pocket, "there's something you should know about that." He pulled out a manila folder, the kind lawyers carry when they're about to destroy someone's life with paperwork. "Emily and I were married on January 8, 2024. As her husband, I have certain legal responsibilities to protect her well-being." He handed me a marriage certificate. The paper looked official, complete with raised seals and witness signatures. Emily Carter Brooks, Ryan James Brooks. Date of ceremony January 8, 2024. Witnesses Thomas Reed and Laura Bennett. Emily never mentioned getting married. She didn't want to upset you. You'd been critical of her choices before. Critical of her choices? I'd supported every decision Emily had ever made. I'd celebrated her independence, encouraged her career, respected her autonomy. This was gaslighting, and I was watching it happen in real time. "I want to see the house," I said. "That's not possible. This is a private residence. You're not welcome here. I bought this house. My name is on the deed." Ryan's expression shifted to something like pity. "Actually, no. Emily made some changes to the property ownership after we got married. California is a community property state. I know what community property means. Then you know that Emily had every right to modify the deed. She transferred ownership to both of us last month. Everything's been properly filed with Santa Clara County." He pulled out another document, a quitclaim deed dated February 15, 2024. Emily's signature was at the bottom, witnessed and notarized. But something was wrong with that signature. I'd seen Emily's handwriting thousands of times. Birthday cards, thank you notes, college applications I'd helped her proofread. Her signature had a distinctive flourish on the E and a particular way of crossing her T's. This signature looked similar, but the pen pressure was different. The angle was wrong. "Where did Emily sign this?" I asked. "At our attorney's office. Everything was done properly." "What attorney?" "That's confidential client information." I stared at the document, my medical training kicking in. When you're looking at test results, you learn to spot inconsistencies that other people miss. This signature had all the right elements, but they were arranged like someone had been copying rather than writing naturally. "I'd like to speak with Emily about this. She's made her position clear. She doesn't want contact with family members who can't respect her choices." Through the window I could see Emily moving from the kitchen to the living room carrying cleaning supplies. She moved like someone following a checklist, not like someone living in her own home. "Let me ask you something, Ryan. What kind of lawyer specializes in real estate but also handles family therapy boundaries?" His smile flickered for just a moment. "I have diverse interests." "And what kind of husband lets his wife do all the housework while he talks to visitors?" "Emily likes to stay busy. It helps with her anxiety." Anxiety. Emily had never mentioned anxiety. If anything, she'd always been the most emotionally stable person I knew. She'd helped me through my grief after her mother died. She'd been my rock during the hardest years of my life. "I'm going to need to see some identification," I said. "And I want to verify this marriage certificate with Santa Clara County." "You're welcome to do that. Everything's in order." "Good, because if I find out you've forged any documents or if you're manipulating my daughter in any way, I will destroy you." Ryan stepped closer and his friendly demeanor dropped completely. "Mr. Carter, I think you should leave. Emily has moved on with her life. She doesn't need an aging father trying to control her decisions." "I'm not trying to control anything. I'm trying to understand why my daughter is acting like a stranger. People change. Accept it." Behind him, Emily appeared in the window again. For just a moment our eyes met. And in that moment I saw something that made my blood freeze. Fear, not confusion, not embarrassment. Pure, desperate fear. She looked away quickly, but it was too late. I'd seen what I'd seen. My daughter wasn't confused or boundary setting or moving on with her life. My daughter was terrified. I realized the signature on this document wasn't just wrong. I drove straight to the nearest coffee shop and called the one person I knew who specialized in exactly this kind of situation. Victoria Lane had a reputation in California family law circles. She didn't handle divorces or custody disputes. She handled cases where manipulation had crossed into criminal territory. I'd heard about her through medical conferences. She often worked with doctors whose patients were showing signs of domestic psychological abuse. "Dr. Carter, I got your message. You said this was urgent. I think my daughter is being held against her will by someone claiming to be her husband." There was a pause. "What makes you think that?" I explained everything. The marriage certificate, the forged signature, Emily's behavior, Ryan's controlling responses. Victoria listened without interrupting, which told me she'd heard similar stories before. "Doctor, I need to ask you some difficult questions. Had Emily shown any signs of wanting to distance herself from you before this Ryan appeared?" "None. We were close. We talked regularly." "Any financial problems, substance abuse, mental health issues?" "Nothing. She was thriving professionally, financially stable, emotionally healthy. And this personality change. When did you first notice it?" I thought back through our calls. October, maybe November. She started seeming more careful about what she said. "Dr. Carter, I'm going to tell you something that might be hard to hear. What you're describing fits a pattern I've seen before. Professional manipulators target independent, successful women specifically because they represent the biggest challenge." "I don't understand." "Think about it from a predator's perspective. Breaking down someone who's already vulnerable doesn't prove much. But if you can isolate and control someone like your daughter, educated, confident, financially secure, that's a real demonstration of power." The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. "Are you saying this is deliberate?" "I'm saying I want you to meet me tomorrow morning. I'm going to show you 3 case files. Sophia Grant 2019, Lauren Brooks 2021, Rachel Park 2023. What happened to them? Same pattern. Successful women, sudden personality changes, isolation from family, mysterious marriages, property transfers." My hands were shaking. "What happened to the men who did this to them?" "That's the problem, Dr. Carter. Same man." The words hit me like a defibrillator shock. "Same. You mean Ryan?" "Ryan James Brooks, real estate attorney, licensed in California since 2018. Specializes in elder law and estate planning, which gives him access to vulnerable people with assets. He's very good at what he does, and what he does is completely legal right up until the moment it isn't." "Why isn't he in prison?" "Because his victims protect him. By the time we figure out what's happening, they've been so thoroughly manipulated that they see us as the threat." Sophia Grant testified against her own family in court. Lauren Brooks moved to another state with him. Rachel Park tried to kill herself rather than lose him. I felt sick. Where is he now? According to my last information, he was between victims. We'd been watching for him to surface again. Victoria's voice got sharper. "Dr. Carter, when did Emily meet this man?" "She first mentioned him about 8 months ago." 8 months? That's his timeline. 6 months to establish control, 2 months to transfer assets, then disappearance. You showing up might have accelerated his schedule. What do I do? First, you don't contact Emily directly. If he realizes we're onto him, he could disappear with her. These men often have exit strategies that include taking their victims to places where family can't find them. She's my daughter. I can't just, Dr. Carter, listen to me carefully. If you push too hard, too fast, your daughter could end up like Rachel Park. We need to be surgical about this." "Surgical?" I appreciated the metaphor. "What's the first step?" "I'm filing for an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. We're going to request a freeze on all accounts connected to your trust and the property. California law allows this when there's evidence of financial elder abuse." "Elder abuse?" "I'm 58. The law covers anyone over 50 whose assets are being exploited through manipulation of their family members. It's a broader definition than most people realize." "How long do we have?" If my pattern recognition is correct, not long. Sophia, Lauren, and Rachel all disappeared within days of their families getting suspicious. And Dr. Carter, there's something else. I gripped the phone tighter. What? We never found Lauren Brooks. She's been missing for 3 years. The coffee shop was spinning around me. You think he kills them? I think he discards them when they're no longer useful. Whether that means abandonment or something worse, I don't know. But I know we can't let him get to that point with Emily. I thought about the fear in my daughter's eyes. The way she'd looked at me through the window like she was trying to send a message she couldn't speak aloud. Victoria, what time is court tomorrow? 9 a.m. Santa Clara County Superior Court. Judge Patricia Wilson, I'm filing the paperwork tonight. I'll be there. Dr. Carter, bring everything. Bank statements, trust documents, property records, anything that proves your financial relationship with Emily. We're going to need every piece of documentation we can get. I hung up and stared at my coffee, thinking about heart surgery. The most dangerous moment in cardiac surgery isn't when something goes wrong. It's when everything looks fine but your instruments are telling you something different. All my instruments were screaming. Victoria said, all 3 victims had the same pattern. At 8:45 a.m. the next morning I walked into Santa Clara County Superior Court carrying a briefcase full of evidence and a heart full of controlled rage. Victoria Lane met me at the security checkpoint looking like someone who'd spent the night turning my daughter's situation into a legal weapon. Everything filed? I asked. Emergency motion for asset protection, petition for investigation of elder financial abuse, and request for immediate injunctive relief. Case number CV 202488861 assigned to Judge Patricia Wilson. Victoria had been busy. She'd contacted Detective Michael Ford from the Financial Crimes Unit who'd been tracking Ryan James Brooks across multiple jurisdictions. Apparently Ryan had been more active than even Victoria realized. 6 victims in 4 years, Detective Ford explained as we walked to the courtroom. Same pattern every time. Target successful women with family money. Establish romantic control. Isolate them from support systems. Transfer assets. Disappear. How much money are we talking about? Conservatively $12 million across all victims, but that's just what we can verify. There could be more. Judge Wilson's courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, but Victoria assured me that was good news. Smaller courtrooms mean judges pay closer attention to details. At 9:15 a.m. Judge Wilson called our case. Victoria stood up like she was performing surgery herself. Precise, confident, and absolutely focused on the outcome. Your Honor, we're seeking emergency protection for assets belonging to Dr. Robert Carter and his daughter Emily Carter, now Emily Brooks. We have evidence of systematic financial manipulation and psychological coercion. Ryan's attorney was a thin man named Daniel Pierce who looked like he'd handled this exact situation before. That was troubling. Your Honor, this is clearly a family dispute. Mr. Brooks and his wife have every right to manage their marital assets as they see fit. Mr. Pierce, Judge Wilson said, flipping through the paperwork. These assets weren't marital property. They were purchased by Dr. Carter before any alleged marriage occurred. Alleged marriage? Pierce looked offended. I have the certificate right here. Victoria was ready for this. Your Honor, we'd like to submit Exhibit A, a forensic handwriting analysis of the signature on that marriage certificate. The handwriting expert's report was devastating. Emily's signature had been traced, not written naturally. The pen pressure patterns, stroke angles, and timing intervals all indicated forgery. Judge Wilson studied the document carefully. Mr. Pierce, do you have an explanation for these findings? We question the validity of that analysis. I see. Well, pending further investigation, I'm granting the emergency motion. All accounts associated with the Carter Family Trust are frozen as of this moment. All property transfers dated after December 1, 2023 are suspended pending review. Detective Ford had prepared for the next phase. As soon as Judge Wilson signed the order, 2 officers were dispatched to Wells Fargo to implement the account freeze. Another team went to the county recorder's office to flag the property deed. But I knew Ryan wouldn't take this lying down. My phone rang at 11:30 a.m. just as Victoria and I were leaving the courthouse. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. Dr. Carter. Ryan's voice was different now. No more fake friendliness. This was the real Ryan James Brooks. What do you want? I want to explain something to you about your daughter. Emily has been very clear about not wanting contact with you, but you seem determined to force yourself into her life. The court seems to disagree with your assessment. The court doesn't understand the full situation. Emily has been seeing a therapist for severe family trauma. She's been working through some very difficult memories about your relationship. What memories? I think that's between Emily and her doctor, but she's asked me to tell you that your attempts to control her finances are exactly the kind of behavior that damaged your relationship in the first place. This was textbook manipulation, creating a false history, making the victim's family the problem, positioning himself as the protector. I'd read about these tactics in Victoria's case files. Ryan, let me be very clear about something. I know what you are. I know what you've done to Sophia Grant, Lauren Brooks, and Rachel Park, and I know what you're doing to my daughter. There was silence for a moment. Then, Dr. Carter, you should be very careful about making accusations you can't prove. I don't need to prove anything. The evidence speaks for itself. Evidence can be misleading. For example, elderly men under stress sometimes develop paranoid delusions. They imagine threats that don't exist. They make poor decisions that affect their families. The threat was subtle but clear. He was setting up a narrative where I was the unstable one, where my concerns about Emily were signs of mental decline. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to stop manipulating my daughter. You're going to return control of her assets and you're going to disappear from her life. Ryan laughed. Or what? You'll sue me? You'll call the police? Dr. Carter, I haven't broken any laws. Emily is an adult who made adult choices. If those choices upset you, that's your problem to work through. We'll see. Yes, we will. By the way, how's your heart these days? All that stress can't be good for a man your age, especially with your family history of cardiac events. He knew about my father's heart attack. That information could only have come from Emily, which meant he'd been mining her personal history for leverage. Stay away from my daughter. I am your daughter's husband. She needs me to protect her from people who claim to love her but actually want to control her. People like you. The line went dead. Victoria was watching my face. What did he say? He threatened my health and he's been gathering information about my family medical history. That's escalation. He's feeling cornered. Victoria's expression was grim. Dr. Carter, we need to be prepared for him to do something desperate. Like what? Like disappearing with Emily before we can build our case. These men always have exit strategies. I thought about Lauren Brooks missing for 3 years. I thought about Rachel Park in the hospital. I thought about my daughter's terrified eyes through that window. How long do we have? Maybe 48 hours. Once he realizes we're serious about the investigation, he'll make his move. Detective Ford approached us as we reached the parking garage. Dr. Carter, I need you to know something. We just ran Ryan James Brooks through the federal database and he's not who he claims to be. What do you mean he's not who he claims to be? I asked Detective Ford. Ryan James Brooks, the real Ryan James Brooks, died in a car accident in Oregon 3 years ago. Whoever is living with your daughter stole a dead man's identity. The parking garage felt like it was tilting. Everything I thought I understood about this situation had just shifted. So who is he? We're working on that, but Dr. Carter, this changes everything. Identity theft is a federal crime. We can move on this immediately. Victoria was already on her phone. I'm calling for an emergency protective order. If this man is using false identity documents, Emily could be in immediate danger. But Detective Ford held up his hand. There's something else. We traced the phone number he called you from. It's registered to a Marcus Chen in San Francisco. Another stolen identity, probably. But here's the interesting part. Marcus Chen's credit report shows multiple high-end purchases in the last 6 months. Expensive jewelry, luxury car payments, first-class airline tickets, all charged to credit cards opened with Emily's financial information. He'd been using my daughter as a personal ATM. Victoria finished her call. Judge Wilson will see us at 2 p.m. for emergency hearing, but Dr. Carter, we need to move fast. If he realizes we know about the identity theft, he might panic. What does that mean for Emily? It means we need to get to her before he does something irreversible. We drove to 1247 Maple Street in Detective Ford's unmarked car. The plan was simple: serve the protective order, verify Emily's safety, and try to get her away from Ryan long enough to understand what was really happening. The house looked different in daylight, more expensive, more isolated, perfect for someone who wanted to control another person without interference. Detective Ford knocked on the door. Police, we have a court order to speak with Emily Brooks. Ryan answered, looking exactly like the concerned husband he'd been pretending to be. Officers. What's this about? Sir, we need to verify the safety and well-being of Emily Brooks. She's fine. She's been having a difficult day. We'll need to see her directly. Ryan's mask slipped for just a moment. She's not available right now. She's resting. Sir, this isn't a request. We have a court order. That's when we heard Emily's voice from inside the house. Not talking, screaming. Help. Please, someone help me. Detective Ford pushed past Ryan. I followed Victoria right behind me. We found Emily in the kitchen, pressed against the wall. Her face streaked with tears. But when she saw me, her expression changed completely. "Get away from me," she screamed. "You're trying to ruin my life. Why can't you just leave us alone?" I stopped cold. This wasn't the response I'd expected. "Emily, it's me. It's Dad. I know who you are. You're the person who abandoned me for 10 years. You're the person who's trying to destroy my marriage because you can't stand that I'm happy." Ryan stepped up beside her, putting a protective arm around her shoulders. "She's been very upset about your legal actions. She feels like you're trying to control her life." But Detective Ford was watching something else. "Ma'am, are those bruises on your wrists?" Emily quickly pulled down her sleeves. "I fell yesterday. I'm clumsy. Those look like restraint marks." "You're wrong. Ryan would never hurt me. He's the only person who's ever really loved me." I felt like I was watching someone else inhabit my daughter's body. This wasn't Emily talking. This was someone who'd been programmed to say these things. Victoria stepped forward. "Emily, my name is Victoria Lane. I'm an attorney who specializes in helping people who've been financially exploited. I'd like to ask you some questions." "I don't need help. I need my family to leave me alone." "Emily," I said quietly. "I know you're afraid. But you don't have to be afraid anymore." "I'm not afraid of anything except you. Ryan showed me how controlling you are, how you've been manipulating me my whole life." Ryan was nodding sympathetically. "Emily's been working through a lot of difficult realizations about your relationship, Dr. Carter." Detective Ford was taking notes. "Ma'am, are you aware that your husband has been using your financial information to make unauthorized purchases?" "Those weren't unauthorized. We're married. We share everything. And are you aware that Ryan James Brooks is not his real name?" For just a moment Emily's certainty flickered. "What? The man you married is using a stolen identity. The real Ryan James Brooks died 3 years ago." Emily looked at Ryan, confusion replacing the programmed anger. "Ryan, what's he talking about?" "They're lying to you, honey. This is exactly what I told you they'd do. They'll say anything to break us apart." But something had shifted in Emily's expression. "What did you say about your name?" Detective Ford pulled out his phone. "Ma'am, I have a death certificate here for Ryan James Brooks, dated March 15, 2021. Cause of death, automobile accident in Portland, Oregon." Emily stared at the document and then looked at Ryan. "I don't understand. They're trying to confuse you. You know who I am. But if your name isn't really Ryan, then who are you?" "I'm the person who loves you. That's all that matters." Victoria stepped closer. "Emily, do you remember signing any papers to transfer the ownership of this house?" Yes. Ryan said it was for tax purposes." "Do you remember the day you signed them?" Emily's forehead wrinkled. It was at a lawyer's office. But I felt strange that day, like I was sick or something. The whole thing is fuzzy." "Emily," I said gently. "Do you remember our last phone call? You asked me about chest pains." "I did. You said you'd been having trouble sleeping, that you felt anxious all the time. You'd never had anxiety before." Emily looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. I do feel anxious all the time and I can't remember things clearly anymore." Ryan's voice got sharper. "Emily, don't let them manipulate you. Remember what we talked about." But Emily was backing away from him now. "Who are you? What's your real name?" "Emily, calm down. No, tell me your real name." Ryan's mask finally fell completely. "My name doesn't matter. What matters is that you belong to me now." Emily started screaming, "You destroyed my whole life." What happened next nearly destroyed everything we'd worked for. Within 2 hours of Emily's breakdown, Ryan's real attorney, not Daniel Pierce but someone much more dangerous, filed a countersuit that turned my world upside down. The papers were served while we were still at the police station. Emily was giving her statement, slowly remembering details about forged documents and financial manipulation when Detective Ford's phone rang. "Dr. Carter," he said after hanging up. "We have a problem." The lawsuit was filed under case number CV20248932, alleging that I was an unstable elderly man suffering from paranoid delusions, that I'd been psychologically abusing my daughter for years, and that I was now using false accusations to harass her husband. But worse than that, much worse, was the restraining order attached to the lawsuit. "They're claiming you're a danger to Emily's mental health," Victoria explained, reading through the paperwork. "They have statements from something called Dr. William Morrison claiming that Emily has been receiving therapy for father-related trauma." "Dr. Morrison? I've never heard of him." "That's because he doesn't exist, but the court doesn't know that yet." The restraining order was comprehensive and devastating. I was prohibited from contacting Emily directly, from going within 500 yards of the house I bought her, from accessing any joint financial accounts, and from interfering with her therapeutic recovery process. Judge Wilson, the same judge who'd helped us that morning, was forced to sign a temporary order until a full hearing could be held. How long? I asked. Minimum 72 hours, maybe longer. Victoria, they could disappear in 72 hours. I know. But the worst part wasn't the legal maneuvering. The worst part was what it was doing to Emily. Dr. Lisa Chen, the psychiatrist Victoria had brought in as an expert witness, explained it during an emergency meeting that afternoon. Your daughter is experiencing what we call trauma bonding, Dr. Chen said. The psychological manipulation has been so thorough that she literally cannot distinguish between protection and control. But she was starting to remember things. She was asking questions about his real identity. That's exactly why this counterattack is so dangerous. When victims start to break free from psychological control, manipulators often escalate to prevent losing them entirely. What kind of escalation? Dr. Chen's expression was grim. Isolation is the most common, moving the victim somewhere family can't find them. But in cases where the manipulator is facing criminal charges, what? Sometimes they eliminate the evidence. Victoria's phone rang. It was Detective Ford. Ryan James Brooks, or whoever he is, just made a very large cash withdrawal from an account we didn't know existed. $75,000 withdrawn 2 hours ago from a Bank of America branch in San Jose. Emily's money. Looks like it. But here's what's really concerning. We just got a ping on his cell phone. It's moving south on Highway 101. Toward LA or toward Mexico? Dr. Carter, we think he's running with Emily. We don't know. We sent a unit to the house, but nobody answered. The neighbors saw a black SUV leave around 3 p.m. with 2 people inside. I felt my chest tightening, the kind of chest pain that cardiac surgeons recognize as more than just stress. Are you telling me my daughter is gone? We're telling you we need to move fast. The restraining order complicates things, but if we can prove immediate danger, Victoria was already working her phone. I'm filing an emergency motion to dissolve the restraining order. Judge Wilson will see us tonight if necessary. How long will that take? Too long. Dr. Carter, there's something else you need to know. I looked at Detective Ford. His expression told me I wasn't going to like what came next. We identified him. His real name is Marcus Holt. He's wanted in 3 states for identity theft, financial fraud, and psychological abuse. But Dr. Carter, there's more. Tell me. Lauren Brooks, the woman who disappeared 3 years ago, we found her body last month. She'd been dead for over 2 years. The room went silent. You're saying he killed her? We're saying she died under suspicious circumstances while in his custody. The autopsy showed signs of prolonged psychological stress and evidence of systematic drugging. My daughter was in a car with a murderer driving toward the Mexican border and I was legally prohibited from trying to save her. What about the FBI? This crosses state lines. They're involved now. But Dr. Carter, you need to understand something. Even if we catch him, even if we rescue Emily, the psychological damage may be irreversible. What this man did to your daughter over 8 months. Some victims never fully recover. I thought about Rachel Park in the hospital. I thought about Lauren Brooks's body in some morgue. I thought about Emily Watson testifying against her own family. Are you telling me I might get my daughter back physically but lose her mentally? Dr. Chen answered carefully. Recovery is possible, but it requires extensive therapy, family support, and time. Some victims develop permanent trust issues. Others struggle with depression and anxiety for years. A few what? A few never stop believing their manipulator was the person who really loved them. Victoria's phone buzzed with a text message. She looked at it and her face went white. What is it? It's from Emily's phone, but I don't think Emily wrote it. She showed me the message. Stop looking for us. Emily is happy now. We're starting fresh somewhere. You can't interfere. If you try to follow us, Emily will pay the price. That's a direct threat. It's also a confession. No legitimate husband writes threats like that. Detective Ford stood up. We're putting out an Amber Alert equivalent for adults. All law enforcement between here and the border will be watching for that SUV. What can I do? Nothing legally. The restraining order is still in effect. I looked around the room at Victoria, at Detective Ford, at Dr. Chen. Everyone was doing their jobs, following procedures, working within the system, but the system was designed for normal situations. This wasn't normal. My daughter was in the hands of a man who'd killed before, who was facing federal charges, who had nothing left to lose. He was driving toward a border where American law enforcement couldn't follow, where missing persons cases got buried in bureaucracy and corruption. If I followed the law, my daughter would disappear forever. If I broke the law, I might save her life but destroy any chance of legal justice. Victoria must have seen something in my expression. Dr. Carter, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that sometimes when someone's heart stops beating, you have to break their ribs to get it started again. That night, while law enforcement worked through proper channels, I made a decision that would either save my daughter or destroy us both. Dr. Chen had given me an idea during our conversation about psychological manipulation. The key to breaking trauma bonding is creating cognitive dissonance, she had explained. The victim needs to see undeniable proof that their reality has been constructed on lies. Victoria couldn't officially help me with what I was planning, but she could provide me with information that might prove useful. The FBI traced Marcus Holt's financial records. She told me during a late-night meeting at her office. He's done this before in exactly the same pattern. Always targets women with family money. Always uses stolen identities. Always has an exit strategy involving foreign countries with limited extradition. How does he choose his victims? He studies obituaries for wealthy families, researches property records for single women who inherit assets, and creates elaborate personas designed to appeal to specific targets. Emily wasn't random, Dr. Carter. She was selected. Selected for what? For approximately $3.2 million in assets plus whatever he could steal from the trust fund, but also for something else. She works with trauma survivors. Taking someone who helps victims and turning her into a victim would be the ultimate power trip for someone like Marcus. Victoria handed me a file folder. This is everything we know about his pattern. If you're going to do something unofficially, this information might help you understand how he thinks. The pattern was chillingly consistent. Marcus Ryan always kept detailed psychological profiles of his victims. He studied their fears, their triggers, their emotional vulnerabilities. He created specifically tailored manipulation strategies for each woman. But there was something else in the file that caught my attention. He records everything, Victoria said. Every conversation, every psychological break, every moment of control. The FBI found terabytes of audio and video files in his previous locations. Why? Ego and insurance. If a victim ever tried to leave or expose him, he had recordings of them in compromised emotional states. He could use those recordings to prove they were unstable. So he might have recordings of Emily. Almost certainly. And Dr. Carter, those recordings could be exactly what we need to break through her psychological conditioning. At midnight I received a call from Detective Ford. We found the SUV. It was abandoned at a rest stop in Bakersfield. No sign of Emily or Marcus. Abandoned? They switched vehicles. We're tracking credit cards and cell phone pings, but they've gone dark. Any idea where they're headed? Somewhere with no extradition treaty. Marcus has used this route before. Bakersfield to Las Vegas, then private flights to countries that don't cooperate with U.S. law enforcement. I had maybe 6 hours before they crossed a point of no return. Dr. Chen had arranged for specialized recording equipment, the kind used in psychiatric evaluations where patients need to be recorded without their knowledge. If you can get Marcus to reveal his manipulation tactics on tape, we might be able to use that recording to help Emily understand what was done to her. How? Hearing her manipulator describe his methods in clinical terms often creates the cognitive dissonance needed to break trauma bonding. But Dr. Carter, this is incredibly dangerous. If Marcus realizes what you're doing, I understand the risks. Victoria had one more piece of information. There's something else about Marcus you need to know. He has a psychological weakness. He can't resist proving how clever he is, especially to authority figures he's defeated. What do you mean? Sophia Grant's father, Lauren Brooks's brother, Rachel Park's family. They all reported the same thing. Right before Marcus disappeared with their daughters, he called them. He explained exactly how he'd manipulated their loved ones. He couldn't resist gloating. So he might call me. He might. And if he does, you need to be ready. The recording equipment was smaller than I'd expected, just a modified cell phone that would capture and transmit everything to a secure server. If Marcus called, every word would be preserved as evidence. But I needed more than just evidence. I needed leverage. At 2 a.m. I made a decision that violated every legal restriction placed on me. I drove to the house at 1247 Maple Street, knowing it was empty, knowing I was breaking the law, but also knowing it might be my last chance to understand what had happened to my daughter. Inside I found Marcus Holt's real workshop. The house at 1247 Maple Street told a story I wasn't prepared to read. In what should have been Emily's home office, I found Marcus's real operation. 3 computer monitors displaying financial software, dozens of manila folders organized by victim names, and a professional-grade recording studio set up in the walk-in closet. The recordings were labeled by date and emotional state. Emily, initial compliance training. Emily, financial dependency installation. Emily, family isolation protocol. I put on the headphones and listened to my daughter being systematically destroyed. Marcus's voice was calm, clinical. Emily, tell me again why your father abandoned you. He didn't abandon me. He went to London for work. But he chose work over you. He chose money over family. That's abandonment, isn't it? I guess it could be seen that way. How did that make you feel? Hurt, lonely. And who's the only person who's ever put you first? You are. The dates on the recordings showed the progression. Early sessions focused on rewriting Emily's memories of our relationship. Later sessions involved what Marcus called dependency conditioning, creating artificial emotional crises that only he could solve. By the final recordings, Emily's voice had changed completely. She sounded smaller, younger, desperate for his approval. Please don't be angry with me, she said in one recording dated just a week ago. I'll do better. I'll be better. I know you will, Marcus replied. But you understand why I have to punish you when you talk to your father, right? Yes, because he's toxic for me. That's right. And what happens to people who let toxic influences back into their lives? They get sick again. Good girl. I was listening to my daughter being brainwashed, and every instinct I had as a father and a doctor was screaming at me to put my fist through the wall. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. Dr. Carter, you sound upset. Marcus's voice was exactly the same as it had been in the recordings. Calm, controlled, enjoying his power. Where's my daughter? She's safe. She's with someone who actually loves her. You mean someone who's been psychologically torturing her for 8 months? Marcus laughed. Torture? Doctor, I've given Emily the first healthy relationship of her life. I've helped her understand how damaged she was by your neglect. I have recordings, Marcus. I know what you did to her. Recordings of what? A loving husband helping his wife work through family trauma. I'm sure those will be very compelling to law enforcement. He was right and he knew it. Everything on those recordings could be interpreted as legitimate therapy sessions if taken out of context. I know who you are. Marcus Holt wanted in 3 states. Identity theft, murder. Murder. That's a very serious accusation. I hope you can prove it. Lauren Brooks. Lauren was unstable. Tragically, she took her own life. Very sad. After you drove her to a psychological breakdown. After I tried unsuccessfully to help her overcome her mental health issues. Some people can't be saved, Dr. Carter. But Emily is different. Emily can be helped. Helped by being turned into a prisoner in her own house. Helped by being removed from toxic influences like controlling fathers who use money to manipulate their children. I realized he was doing exactly what Victoria had predicted. He couldn't resist explaining his methodology. Tell me something, Marcus. How does it work? How do you pick your targets? I don't pick targets, doctor. I identify women who need rescue from damaging family systems. Emily, for example, was being financially controlled by a father who used guilt and money to keep her dependent. I gave her independence. You gave her a golden cage. The house, the trust fund, the constant check-ins, all designed to keep her tied to you emotionally. I set her free. Free to live as your servant. Free to experience unconditional love for the first time in her life. The recording device was capturing everything. Marcus was describing textbook psychological manipulation while believing he was describing therapeutic intervention. And the financial transfers, taking $75,000 from her accounts. Shared marital resources. Emily wanted to start fresh, away from the toxic wealth used to control her. Where are you taking her? Somewhere she can heal. Somewhere family members with restraining orders can't interfere with her recovery. Marcus, you're making a mistake. The FBI knows who you are. They know about Lauren Brooks. They're not going to let you disappear again. The FBI doesn't understand complex family dynamics. They see a successful businessman helping his wife escape an abusive family situation. By the time they sort through the legal complications, Emily and I will be enjoying our new life. What about Sophia Grant, Rachel Park, Lauren Brooks? Were they all just escaping abusive families? Some people are strong enough to make healthy changes. Others, there was a long pause. Others aren't. Emily is strong. She's going to thrive. You mean she's going to survive longer than the others? I mean she's going to be happy, which is more than I can say for what her life was like under your control. The call was giving me everything I needed for the FBI, but it wasn't giving me Emily's location. Marcus, I want to see her. I want to hear her tell me she's happy. That's not going to happen. Emily doesn't want to see you anymore. Then let her tell me that herself. Goodbye, Dr. Carter. Don't bother tracing this call. We're already gone. The line went dead, but I'd heard something in the background. Airport announcements in Spanish. Marcus said I've done this to 6 other women. The Spanish airport announcement gave Detective Ford what he needed. Tijuana, he said. They're flying out of Mexico tonight. But as FBI agents raced toward the border, something else was happening that none of us expected. My phone rang again. This time the caller ID said Emily Carter. Dad. Her voice was small, scared, but clear. Emily, where are you? I'm in a bathroom at the airport. Dad, I need to tell you something about why I protected him. Honey, it's okay. We know about the psychological manipulation. We know you couldn't help. No, Dad. You don't understand. I knew who he was. The word stopped my heart. What? I knew he wasn't really Ryan James Brooks. I knew he was lying about everything. I don't understand. Dad, he told me if I didn't cooperate, if I didn't play the perfect victim, he would kill you. The world tilted. Kill me? He has your medical records. He knows about your heart condition, about Dad's family history. He said it would be easy to make it look like a stress-induced cardiac event. He showed me pictures of your house in London, pictures of your office at the hospital. He knew your schedule, your running route, everything. He said if I ever tried to contact you or tell anyone the truth, you would have an accident. Emily, why didn't you tell the police yesterday? Because he still had access to you. Dad, he has connections. People who specialize in making problems disappear permanently. He told me about Lauren Brooks's father, how after Lauren died her father had a convenient heart attack 3 months later. The pieces were falling into place. Emily hadn't been protecting Marcus. She'd been protecting me. So when I showed up at the house, I was terrified. I knew you'd figured out something was wrong, but I also knew that meant you were in immediate danger. Everything I said to you, everything I did, I was following a script he'd given me. The marriage certificate. I signed blank papers. He told me they were tax documents. I only found out later what they really were. And the house transfers. Dad, I never signed anything transferring the house. Those are all forgeries. Detective Ford was listening on speakerphone. Emily, this is Detective Ford. Where is Marcus now? He's at the gate. Flight 447 to Guatemala. Leaves in 20 minutes. But Dad, there's something else. What? He's not alone. There's another girl with him. She looks about my age and she's acting exactly like I was yesterday, terrified but defending him. Another victim? I think so. Her name is Monica. She keeps saying her family abandoned her, that Marcus is the only one who understands her. It's the same things I was saying. Victoria was frantically calling the FBI. They need to stop that plane. Emily, I said. How did you get away? I didn't escape, Dad. He let me use the bathroom and I guess he thought I was too broken to try anything. But when I heard him on the phone with you, when I heard him explaining how he had destroyed me like it was some kind of accomplishment, that broke the spell. It made me remember who I really am. I'm Emily Carter. I help trauma survivors rebuild their lives. And I realized that's exactly what I need to do. Starting with myself. Where are you now? Still hiding in the bathroom. Dad, I called 911 but I don't think the Mexican police understand the situation. The FBI is on the way. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I let him make you think I didn't love you. Emily, you saved my life. You saved both our lives. Through the phone I heard airport security announcements and people running. Dad, something's happening. I think they found him. My daughter said, I knew the whole time and I was protecting you. 6 months later I'm sitting in Emily's real home, the apartment she chose for herself with furniture she picked out in a neighborhood where she feels safe. Marcus Holt was arrested at Tijuana International Airport with Monica Richardson, a 28-year-old marketing executive from Phoenix whose family had been searching for her for 4 months. The charges included identity theft, kidnapping, financial fraud, and murder in the death of Lauren Brooks. The trial revealed the scope of his operation. Over 6 years Marcus had systematically targeted and destroyed 12 women across 5 states. The financial damage exceeded $15 million, but the psychological damage was incalculable. Emily testified against him with the kind of precision that reminded me why I'd always been proud of her mind. She explained his methodology, his psychological techniques, his threats against family members. Her testimony was devastating because it came from someone who understood manipulation from both sides, as a therapist and as a survivor. Marcus received life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Monica Richardson is still in therapy but she's recovering. Emily has been helping her navigate the psychological aftermath of trauma bonding. It turns out my daughter is uniquely qualified to help other survivors understand how someone can love them and torture them simultaneously. The foundation is going well, Emily tells me as we share dinner in her kitchen. We've helped 11 women so far. The Sanctuary Foundation, funded with $500,000 from the recovered assets, provides specialized therapy for victims of psychological manipulation. Emily runs it with the kind of passion she's always brought to helping others heal. Any regrets about leaving the clinic? None. This work is more personal now. I understand what my clients are going through in ways I never could before. We don't talk about Marcus anymore unless it's related to helping other survivors. Emily has established clear boundaries around that chapter of her life. She's engaged to a pediatric nurse named David. Yes, she picked someone with the same name as her father. And yes, we've all acknowledged the healthy irony of that. Dad, can I ask you something? When you realized what he was doing to me, were you tempted to just take matters into your own hands? I think about the night I spent in that house listening to recordings of her systematic destruction. I think about how close I came to breaking every law I respect every day. What stopped you? I knew that saving you the wrong way would mean losing you forever. Emily reaches across the table and takes my hand. You know what the difference is between control and love? Tell me. Love creates freedom. Control destroys it. And Dad, you taught me the difference. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find each other again. If this story reminded you of someone you know, please share it. And remember, manipulation isn't love. Control isn't care. And isolation isn't protection.